going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Grand Theft Auto video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about 20 plus things you need to know before purchasing the brand new Vigilante that was added in Grand Theft Auto Online today. That's right, so in case you missed my earlier live stream or my video earlier, essentially Rockstar has introduced the Halloween 2017 DLC content into the game, with the main centerpiece being the Vigilante Batmobile, a supercar that can be purchased on the Warstock cash and carry site. So with all of our purchases, we have to start with price, and the Vigilante is unique because it's one of the few weaponized vehicles in the game without a trade price. The only price for this vehicle is one of them, and it's $3.75 million, which makes it the most expensive supercar and vehicle in the game without a trade price. So needless to say, this vehicle is pretty expensive. To help you guys out with this, I am doing a shark card giveaway that's going on my Twitter account right now. I'll leave a link to it in the description. I'm giving away $3.5 million, and that giveaway will be ending on Monday, and one lucky person will be walking away a little bit richer, and it'll hopefully help them fund the Vigilante or really anything else they want in online. Now, let's move on to the customization of this vehicle because there's a couple unique, interesting things and quirks, including the fact that this is not upgraded at the Los Santos Custom Shop. It's upgraded at the MOC. So before you buy this vehicle, if you don't have an MOC, well, make sure you do, or otherwise you're going to have to add this to your price total for buying this vehicle. So keep that in mind. You can't just buy this and go upgrade it anywhere. You have to have a mobile operation center. And you also have to have the bay option that allows you to upgrade vehicles in the MOC too. So even though this vehicle is only $3.75 million, if you don't have an MOC, this thing could easily reach $5 or $6 million just to get this thing upgraded. Now, another thing that's kind of a bummer is there's no custom wheels or wheel color. So you may have seen custom photos that look like this, where you have, special wheels that look really wacky or colored wheels. Well, you aren't able to do this in online. Number one, Rockstar doesn't allow you to change the type of wheel. But number two, because of that, you can't modify the color of the stock wheel in the iFruit app, which is a huge bummer because that could have led to some pretty cool combinations, but unfortunately, since you aren't able to change that, you aren't able to change the stock wheel color, so that's a little bit of a bummer. As far as upgrades go, they're basically just standard customization, color, and then basically all the engine upgrades and whatnot. The most important thing you can do is get the missile upgrade for $180,000. If you're going to get one thing of this vehicle, which we'll explain on why that's important later, get the missile upgrade. And the last thing about customization that I'm a little bit disappointed on is the emblem placement. It's a really tiny spot right next to the door. I know a lot of people would likely have set their logo as Batman's logo and put it on the side of this car, but it doesn't look all that great. It's really tiny, it's really small. So I am disappointed in Rockstar, and they didn't make a better emblem spot for this vehicle, especially with so many people likely putting cool logos like Batman's and whatnot. Now, let's move on to the weapons because there is a lot to talk about here as far as the weapons go. So, number one, you can't use other weapons inside of this vehicle. So you can't use sticky bombs or grenades or micro Uzis or anything like that. You're not allowed to use the regular weapons that you have on your character because you can only use the weapons on the vehicles. You have the 7.62 machine guns, which I don't recommend. That thing is basically a pea shooter. It is really bad, which is why I was saying the weapon upgrade for the missiles is so important. And then you have the missiles themselves. Now, there's 4 missiles on each side. However, you only get 30 missiles before it runs out and before you have to refill them. Now, in order to refill them, you have to bring it back either to your garage, which you can store it in any garage facility. That's another thing to note. You don't have to have like a hangar or a bunker or anything like that. Or you could bring it back to your MOC. So you only get 30 missiles. They are lock-on or non-lock-on, depending on what you want. Now, one thing to be careful about with the missiles, because they're fired so low from the ground, if you're traveling at a high speed or if you're in front of a curb, the missile will blow up in front of you, which, as we'll talk about in a second, is really bad. So the Batmobile, very low to the ground. Missiles shoot from a very low trajectory. Thus, if you're traveling at high speeds or if you're going uphill or a curve is in front of you, you could end up blowing yourself up, which would be really awkward and obviously something you don't want to do. Now, let's move on to the armor resistance of this vehicle, and it's not all that great. So for starters, this vehicle has no bullet resistance. It doesn't have bulletproof glass, so someone with a pistol or a submachine gun or a minigun could walk up to you, shoot through the glass, and kill you pretty instantly, which is a little bit unfortunate. As far as explosive resistance goes, it's not all that great either. It blows up with one sticky bomb one RPG, one grenade. In fact, it still blows up with one homing launcher and one missile from something like a Ruiner 2000 or a Vigilante as well. So it doesn't have any extra protection, even on the homing missiles and even on missiles from other vehicles. The only thing it gets a little bit of extra protection from is the explosive sniper. It takes 3 explosive sniper rounds in order to blow this vehicle up. Now, in case you do have this vehicle blown up by either yourself or someone else, the insurance fee is the most. It's the max. It's 20 grand. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of you guys have probably gotten used to the fact that all the vehicles from Smuggler's Run have only been $1,000 in order to, pay for the insurance cost. Not this guy, not the Vigilante. It's $20,000 if you have to pay for someone else's or if you have to pay for your own. So keep that in mind before you go crazy and just start blowing stuff up in this vehicle. Now, really quickly, let's talk about the performance of this car and some quick tips and tricks. Number one, it's very fast. As we've discussed in previous videos, it's faster than the Rocket Voltic. It's faster than the Oppressor. But because of that, it can be pretty tough to maneuver, especially when you're going pretty quickly. So at those high speeds, you definitely lose a ton of control. Number two, because of the long wheelbase of the car, it spins out really easily. And I've noticed as well that when you come off of a turn or a flip, that it flips over almost like it's incredibly lightweight. And that's another thing. It is actually pretty lightweight compared to what it looks like. So it is able to fly pretty easily, as you've probably seen in a couple clips by now. But this does make it susceptible to flips and bumps and stuff like that. So do keep that in mind. And last but not least, this thing has unbelievable stopping power, as we've touched on in previous videos. So if you are going to ram something, make sure you do it head on. Because the nose of the car is pretty narrow when compared to something like the Duke of Death or the Insurgent, if you don't hit it head on, you're going to send yourself into a tailspin, which is obviously not what you want. You want to be able to continue ramming through other objects or traffic. So make sure you have a head-on collision and you should be good to go. If not, you're going to be spun off to the side. Now, let's talk about some interesting things about this vehicle in terms of what you can or cannot do with them. Number one, can you use them in transform races? Yes, you can. In fact, Rockstar added a brand new transform race this day. It's called Inferno, which actually features the Vigilante. And that's another thing. If you don't own the Vigilante yet, or you're kind of on the fence, play the new transform race and you'll actually get the opportunity to use the Vigilante, and it might give you a better idea on if you like this vehicle, if you dislike it, before you actually have to purchase it. So you can use them in transform races. Unfortunately, you cannot use the Vigilante in regular races. So this is kind of a bummer, but it's not shocking because of the boost and the weapons. Rockstar have made them unavailable to use in regular races. However, some good news, you can use them in heist missions, which is pretty cool. So it's not all that great as it sounds because it doesn't have that bullet resistance. NPCs will shoot through that glass like butter, and if you get hit with an explosion, you're going to get blown up. But if you want to take a chance and use them in heist missions, you can, which is pretty cool. Let's say you're stuck on a roof like me, or you just want to take the Vigilante from point A to point B. Well, can it be cargo bobbed? The answer is 98% no. So it can be cargo bobbed, like the latch can get on there, but it's so heavy, or at least it's heavy enough, that it can't actually be lifted up in the air. So I actually had my Vigilante kind of air rescued, and while it's being cargo bobbed, you can fire the missiles and the machine guns, which is kind of cool, but there's no way for you to keep it suspended in the air. It's really only used to get it like unstuck from something pretty temporarily. So can it be cargo bobbed? Not really, only in like emergency situations. What about those time trials? Can it be used for time trials? The answer is yes, it can. And I've actually seen someone complete the latest time trial with the Vigilante, which is pretty awesome. Now, I don't necessarily recommend it because of all the things we mentioned earlier. It's very susceptible to spinning out, and it's not necessarily all that nimble around turns and stuff like that. But you can use the Vigilante in time trials, which if you want a nice challenge, could be pretty cool. Let's say you're interested in picking up a lady of the night and all you have is your Vigilante. Well, unfortunately, they're not going to get inside your car with it, which is kind of a bummer. I think that would have been pretty cool. I understand why. It's a weaponized rocket-powered vehicle, and maybe they don't want to get into a car that's dangerous, but you can't get any of the lady of the nights in your vehicle. What about bringing this on water or in shallow streams? Well, the answer is kind of. So it can kind of go in semi-deep water, but it doesn't do all that great of a job. It's not like one of those big trucks where it can, have like a snorkel effect where it can pretty much, be inside the water and still driving. One interesting thing though is if you go underwater and quickly use the boost, it will actually shoot your car out of the water like a torpedo. Now, I'm not sure if this will actually save the vehicle. For me, it might have been too late, but you can use the boost very quickly while your car is completely submerged underwater, which is something I thought was pretty unique. And let's say you've gotten your car dirty and you want to take it to the car wash. Well, unfortunately, the car washes in this game will not allow you to bring the Vigilante in. In fact, it's too big. It actually gets stuck inside the car wash. So that's probably a reason why they didn't end up wanting it to go inside the car wash. In fact, this isn't the only thing where the Vigilante is a little bit awkward for its own size. If you bring it into the executive garage, it kind of comes up on an elevator. And when it comes up on the elevator, parts of the car clip through like the walls. It's really weird. So the Vigilante is like too big for its own good, so it can't be used in the car wash, and it struggles in some various cutscenes too. All right, and last but not least, the final interesting thing about this vehicle is its icon on the map. It doesn't have a special icon. So for example, many of the weaponized vehicles like the Ruiner 2000, the weaponized Tampa, the APC, they have special icons on the map so that players can either see you coming or it can be a fair advantage. The Vigilante has none of that. It's just a simple white blip on the map, which is pretty interesting. You can sneak up on people without knowing really what sort of vehicle they're in. I'm actually kind of shocked that Rockstar didn't provide an icon for the Vigilante, especially given how powerful it is. So now let's talk about the overview of this car and would I recommend buying the Vigilante? And the answer is yes, if you have the money. So this thing is incredibly fun. It's very expensive, it's a bit limited, and it's basically a glass cannon. So let's talk about all of those. First of all, it's fun. It's got a rocket thruster on the back. It's amazing to just bop around different places using the boost and, flying off of different objects. It's a ton of fun. It's also very expensive. $3.75 million just to buy it. By the time you fully upgrade it, it's well over $400,000. If you don't have an MOC, you're looking at about $5.5 million for this vehicle just to be able to get it the way you want. Very, very expensive. It's limited in a bunch of things, in my opinion. The fact that you can't change the wheels or change the wheel color, or the fact that there's not other upgrades that you can do to the vehicle is slightly disappointing. The fact that it can't be used in races, the fact that it can't be cargo bobbed, those are all things that I wish Rockstar was maybe a little bit more lenient on. And then as far as a glass cannon goes, this thing is weaponized to the T. I mean, it can take down a whole bunch of stuff with its homing missiles, but if it gets hit with one sticky bomb or RPG, it's done. So that's why it's basically a glass cannon. My final recommendation is due to the ramming power, its explosiveness. It's better than the Rocket Voltic. It's more powerful than the Vigilante. It's the best rocket-powered vehicle in the game, but it comes at a cost, and that's where you need to make the decision. Is it worth the $3.75+ million that it's required in order to get this vehicle? That's going to be up to you. But anyways, that's all the information that I'm going to be talking about for you guys in this video today. 20 plus things you might not have known about the Vigilante and that you should know before buying this vehicle in online. Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and more about this vehicle in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you did go and enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new or you like daily GTA 5 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.